I appreciate the invitation from Mike Powers and Gary Young to come in and talk to you guys. My first trip to Austin. It is a pretty town, a nice town. I found out a couple of things about Austin. One is I did not see Rick Perry anywhere. So I don't know if he exists except on my TV. And Gary Young is much better at getting tossed out of private parties than I am. So he's up to about 3 or 4 now. He's hanging around for a couple more days to see what kind of mischief he can create. Again, my name is Brian Moore. I own Lions Head Consulting. I know Mike from my days as general manager of Thurman Scale. So I know what you guys do. I have a sense for what you're up against, and Mike asked me to talk about selling technical products. We've got a lot of stuff we're going to cover because, quite frankly, selling technical products means we start with people competent to sell technical products. And we have to find a way to get those people to do the right things as opposed to the things that they believe get them a quick buck. Listening is going to be very important. But again, like I told you, I've been to Texas many times, never been to Austin, but it does remind me of a story that I heard this last couple of weeks, and it was this archaeologist in New York. He dug a 10-foot hole, and he found all this wire and whatnot down in there, and he says, I think that New York City had the internet before anybody else 100 years before they got it. Been 10 feet down. So this guy out in Los Angeles says, well, we can do better than that. So he digs a 20-foot hole. And he finds the same sort of wiring. He concludes that Los Angeles had phone service 200 years before anybody else did. We're better than they are. Well, that got somebody to thinking. A man by the name of Billy Bubba, right here in Texas, decided that can't be true. We can't be, those city slickers can't be better than we are, so I'm just going to figure this out. So he digs himself a 10-foot hole, nothing. Digs himself a 20-foot hole, nothing. Digs him a 30-foot hole, nothing. Well, Billy Bubba's smart. He concluded that Texas had wireless technology 300 years before anybody else did. So, big stories, big state. Who am I? I have an electrical engineering degree and an MBA. I have nearly 30 years of sales, marketing, and management, general or executive management experience. I've done it all in all sorts of companies. So I have a sense for what you as independent owners, operators, have to deal with on a daily basis. My professional experience. I've been in the power utilities, I've been in electronics, I've been in electronics manufacturing, I've been in heavy industry, I've been in healthcare, I've been in food service. I stuck my nose in a long list of things, a lot longer there than you want to know about. But I have done a lot of things and seen a lot of issues that revolve around the ability to sell effectively. And that's what we're going to discuss today. I want to get a sense for who you guys are individually. We sat at the table last night and we had some interesting conversations, and I learned a little bit about some people. And all of that is part of understanding who you're talking to, what motivates them, what creates their reality. How many of you believe that your company, your product, is a leader in the industry? Yeah? Right? Some of you need new jobs. How many of you believe that you individually are leaders in your industry? All right. The guy that didn't think his company was, thought he was. How many of you are in manufacturing? Some? Vendors? Your producers? Yeah? How many of you are distributors? Yeah? Okay. Managers? Everybody management here? You got salespeople here. Salespeople? Engineering folks? Engineers. Good job. Like I said, I'm an engineer. I love processes. Processes help us understand. Processes help us to get chaos under control. We know what's going to happen because we predict what's going to happen. With processes, we can understand how things went wrong and how to correct them. Engineering teaches us to look at things systematically. It teaches us to understand things critically. When I was taking my MBA, those slacker business students struggled with all those case studies. We can do this. It's because we learn to think about things. We learn to look at the way things are, the way things need to be, and find a solution to that. They give us confidence. I like processes. Engineering teaches us to understand complex problems. Too many buttons. Complex problems, to look at things critically, to test and hypothesize, to create creative solutions, and to optimize solutions for our customers. What engineering doesn't teach us is interpersonal skills. I flew down here with a girl 2 seats over. I could tell in a heartbeat she was an engineer. She acted like an engineer. She talked like an engineer. She's from Columbus. She's coming down to Houston. Going to Katy. They say you're doing natural gas or gas and oil, aren't you? Yeah. I could tell in an instant. She was confident, capable, not very, especially communicative. Engineering does not teach us how to develop personal or relationship skills. It does not teach us listening skills. At our table last night, one of the manufacturers who will remain anonymous suggested that what we need to make sure you folks learn today is the ability to listen. Engineers don't listen very well, they like to tell. And it does not teach us effective communication skills. The American Society of Engineers put together an interesting list. Why engineers don't want to be in sales. And you know what they are. You know what they are from the very beginning because you know how you think about salespeople that knock on your door, salespeople that tell the market. But the curious thing is, they talk about their engineering skills going to waste, being rusty. For those of you in technical sales, you know that's not true. You get into a lot more things than you ever thought you're going to be able to get into. The world is a lot more diverse out there. Sales are sleazy people. I don't want to be sleazy. Some people, I guess, want to be sleazy. Commission thing, salary thing, all of this sort of thing. If I do sales, I have to lie. It is not a worthwhile career. It's just easy, safe, and reliable. And I'll be honest with you. Coming out of engineering school, I'd say I felt the same way. I'm a genius, right? I had two opportunities coming out of college. One of them was for this little company in Dallas with initials TI that they said, come down to Texas, come down to Dallas, and we want you to be an engineer. And we're working on this thing called GPS. He says, this is going to be able to identify where things are within 6 feet. I said, well, you're nuts. I'm not coming all the way down to Dallas and suffering the heat. I'm going to go into sales. As it turns out, that product seems to have turned out just fine. With or without my help, GPS has worked just fine. But I went into sales because I had an interest in helping people. I spent a summer at Whirlpool while I was there as an intern. I debugged code. There was a guy that retired while I was there. And he worked for his entire career at Whirlpool on washer-dryer combinations. I couldn't do that. I decided as a senior engineering student, I couldn't do that. That's cool for him. It was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to find a way to help people. Fortunately, I was able to find a company that brought us in as salespeople that helped us learn what sales was about. It was a win-win program that we entered into. They allowed us to understand that there are customers out there, there are people out there that have needs, that want people to come help them. And by the way, it's important to understand that as with any product, without a salesman who's out there selling the product and elucidating the product, it wouldn't have happened. You talk about Henry Ford, and Henry Ford was a genius when it came to developing the car and developing the manufacturing process, but his genius was in solving the problem for America. Finding a way to get away from the horse and buggy thinking, figuratively, and to find a way to provide people with a product and a solution that they needed. That was the real genius in it, helping people find what they wanted. Your industry is difficult. I don't know if you've noticed this yet or not, but in 2.5 years as general manager of Thurman Scale, I came to realize that this is a difficult industry. And the reason it's a difficult industry is because it's been around so stinking long. All right? 200 years. More than 200 years, this industry has been around. In fact, in 1799, President John Adams, yes, number 2, signed the first law into place for weights and measurements. It's been around a long time. That in and of itself is a curiosity. I can't think of another industry, not too many industries, that can say without government assistance, they've been around for 200 years, providing services to an industry. Doctors, lawyers, prostitutes. I'll let you decide if there's any similarities between those industries and yours. Fortunately, lots of states had lots of ideas, lots of customers had lots of ideas how to do this, right? They knew what they wanted, and so they just asked people to do it. Going back and looking at just the history of Thurman in particular, I mean, we just built scales, right? People said, I did this, so we did that. There was so much lack of regulation in the industry that you just did what the customer needed. NTEP came along in the 80s and made it incrementally easier, right? Okay, now you have some standards across the country, for the most part, that allow you to design and build to some standards. It made it easier for the companies to know what they can build from place to place rather than guessing as they go forward. However, those things are still in place. Those applications, those products are still in place. They're still being serviced. The holes in the earth that y'all put them in are still there, right? So going forward, these legacy products continue to be a problem for you. These legacy products continue to have needs that have to be met. And that requires a sales force that knows how to communicate to the customers, knows how to sell effectively and efficiently. One of the curious things about this industry and any industry is the communication capability of the internet. Thanks to Mr. Gore. let's start with this. Your company is good. Your company has good products. Otherwise, you wouldn't work there because they wouldn't be there. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You'd have no reason to learn. You'd have no reason to improve yourself, to grow your business. Let's start with that. Your company is good. Your products, however, there is very little differentiation realistically in the products. Digital load cells, analog load cells, I get it. 11-foot wide, 10-foot wide, I get it. Fact of the matter is your customer ultimately needs a solution, and the solutions that people provide in this industry are relatively similar. And certainly, the industry as a whole, as soon as you introduce something, you put it on the internet, the customers can find out about it. More importantly, the competition finds out about it. And either finds a similar product, a similar offering, or refutes what you've got. In either case, we need to find a way to effectively communicate a value proposition to differentiate yourself and your company from the competition. And let me dwell on that word effectively for just a second. Do we know what the difference is between effective and efficient? When I get up in the morning and I iron my shirt, it comes out all nice and crisp and clean and ready to go, and it looks really sweet. I did it right. It's efficiently done. When I look at it and say, well, that's the wrong shirt, that was not the right thing. That was ineffective. So the difference between efficiency and effectiveness, efficiency is doing things right. Effectiveness is doing the right things. So that's what we're here to talk about today. Doing the right things in terms of selling. And we're going to broaden that out just a little bit before we get done today. So how do we do this? Well, the answer is relatively simple. It goes back to processes. Live by a process that creates customers' desired outcomes and establishes you as a person of credibility and influence. At its core, effective selling is relationship driven. Committing yourself to a vision into which the customer can buy. Consultative sales process.